So I mean, looking at week one, I think that there was like a lot of kind of exciting stuff that happened. We ended up having some really exciting games, some really good games. Um, and I mean, I guess we can start with uh, probably the biggest game of Friday was Virginia Tech versus North Carolina, and how that just like was extremely disappointing for me. Uh, I mean, the
Was
game
it
itself was disappointing. Obviously, the result was disappointing, but like it was just boring. Like it wasn't a great game. Um, Virginia Tech had so many chances to like I guess put the game away, and they never really did till they won. And North Carolina had so many chances to kind of take the game away from Virginia Tech, and they just never did. And it kind of felt just like the time ran out, and it
yeah,
was like, oh, this is
and they just never got
okay.
going. They just never got going. I
Yeah,
do
like
have a question.
what was supposed to happen never happened. Yeah, what's up?
Watching Mac, I know how much you love Mac Brown. Did it hurt you
Yeah.
watching him on the sidelines? Because he looked disheveled. He looked
Yeah.
confused. He looked upset.
Yeah, he looked like a geriatric old man.
Yes, he did.
He looked out of place.
Yeah,
That team looked soft. I mean, it was out of characteristic for like what I have come to expect.
yeah,
But also like when Mac Brown loses, that's how he looks.
yeah,
So I don't know. I don't like how do you walk into that just so unprepared for what they had to throw at you. The I mean both the offensive and defensive line for North Carolina just got pushed around, and the way that they run their offense, like when that happens, they they can't get the ball out. The receivers don't get separation, so like
yeah.
I mean Virginia Tech did everything they needed to do to stop that offense, and they did it flawlessly.
This is so. This
Um,
has got to be the hallmark of the what's his name, Justin Fuente. Um, I think it's
Yeah,
Justin.
absolutely.
This is the hallmark, and maybe signs of good things
It's
to
just
come because it's been a struggle so far for Virginia Tech under Fuente,
hmm
and but I do want to talk quickly
Yep.
about the Thursday night game. I know you weren't very excited. Well, the two games on Thursday night that were very exciting.
Yep.
So Ohio State got a pretty serious threat from Minnesota
hmm
until they kind of figured it out, and C.J. Stroud remembered that he was a five-star quarterback and decided to kind of take over the game in the second half of the game. But um, I think Minnesota is going to be a little bit better than I thought. It does hurt. It does suck that they lost their running back Ibrahim, but I think Minnesota will be just fine this year. Ohio State, it's Ohio State. They're going to be dominant. I'm
Yeah,
looking.
I wasn't excited to watch that game, to be honest.
You were not.
I thought that game was. I was not. I thought it was going to be boring. I thought that Ohio State was going to just walk in and roll over them. And I mean, I think it opened up a little bit of like some weaknesses that Ohio State has, because I think that that defense has some pretty major weaknesses now. And I don't think as highly of that team as I did a week ago.
Yeah,
Um, but I definitely still think that they are the team to beat in the Big Ten, because they just have an offense that can score like almost nobody else has in that conference. But when they go to actually play somebody, it's going to be a wild card. I think if they play Clemson, they are going to destroy them, because Clemson can't score.
if if
Um,
if
and we
Clemson
saw that.
offensive line keeps looking like it did this past week, and Clemson is going to be, they're
And
not
that's
making the
going to be bad.
playoffs. They're not making the playoffs
No,
if that's the way the
no,
offensive line's going to play.
no.
Um,
And then
the other game
I
Thursday
also
night,
wanted to, yeah,
the
Central
UC,
Florida versus Boise State.
yeah, that was a
Yeah.
hell of a
What a
game.
game. What a game. That was a fun game.
So I that game was delayed. I don't know if there was. I think there was a lightning storm or something like
hmm
that. So I caught Boise State going up 24-7 early in the game, and then I had to go to sleep. So I fell asleep, and I woke up the next morning to see that Central Florida had won, what, 36 to, I can't even remember what it was, 36 to 34 or something like that. They came back and won.
Yeah, I mean it was a classic Gus Malzahn. Let's figure out a way to somehow win it. It doesn't make sense,
It
but we
does not.
did.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I think that that speaks to the level of player at Central Florida right now. They just like they have better players than Boise State does.
Yeah.
Boise State develops players well, but they just have a better roster. And that's also why the Big 12 invited UCF and not Boise State, in addition to the fact that Boise State just is in Orlando and they want to recruit
Yeah.
Florida.
If you have the choice of Florida and Idaho, I think pretty much 20 times, 100 times out
Yeah,
of 100, you're gonna take
you're going to
Florida.
choose Florida.
But moving to Saturday, there were obviously a bunch of juicy matchups on Saturday. Wisconsin Penn
One
State.
game.
Wisconsin Penn State was just
Hmm.
a good classic Big Ten game. Nothing special about
Yeah,
it.
which I actually think is funny. I was listening to a couple podcasts and I think I didn't really think about this, but okay, so do you think that Penn State and Wisconsin, do you think that they have bad offenses?
No, I just think well, as much for a Big Ten offense, I think they're good. If it's the
Okay.
SEC, if it's an SEC offense, they're terrible. If that makes any sense.
Okay. So here's my thing with that is what's the difference between Penn State and Georgia?
Georgia has way better recruits.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's that really that much better, but also like I think the only real difference is that Penn State plays at noon and Georgia plays at 7 p.m.
More eyes were on that
We're
game.
drunk when yeah, we're drunk when we watch Georgia and Clemson play, and we're like, "Oh, look at these defenses beating each other up, and the offense is just not being able to do anything." We don't say that their offenses suck. We say that the defenses are amazing.
Yes.
And then we watch these Big Ten games at noon, and we're like, we're not that drunk. We're
You
probably a
make a
little
good
hungover
point.
and grumpy
You
from the
make a
night before,
very
and
good
it's
point.
like, well, yeah, these offenses are terrible.
Yeah. I can see where you're coming from. But that there's also just like the idea of the Big Ten is they don't play good offense, they play good defense, and they run the
Sure.
ball
Well, like, why do we have that perception? It's
because that's
because
what the media has told us.
there are no seven yeah, there's no 7 p.m. uh Big Ten games.
Yeah, but that's when is well, other than Ohio State. Ohio State's the only one that ever gets, and whoever Ohio State plays is the only one that ever
Yeah,
gets that Sunday or Saturday
but
night game.
sometimes Penn State will get like a whiteout night out game,
Yeah, yeah,
but usually that's against Ohio State
yeah.
or
I
Michigan.
you
I mean, it's
That's a great point. I agree with you completely. Maybe I need to reassess, and maybe all Big Ten offenses aren't bad. Well, some of them are, but
yeah, some of them are, but like maybe they're not that
actually,
much worse than the SEC.
transition. Speaking of a bad Big Ten offense, a game that I think it might be, other than maybe Montana upsetting Washington. I don't really have anything to say about that, but um, the Indiana Iowa score. That was one of the most shocking scores of
Yeah.
the weekend for me. Iowa beating Indiana 34-6. I know we were both kind of on Indiana's side going into that game, and boy, were we wrong.
So I was rooting for Indiana, but I didn't have a whole lot. Like it was one of those things where,
Hi, Brooke.
hello, Brooke. Uh, it was one of those things where, like, I was rooting for Indiana. I was feeling good about Indiana, but like I also knew that it could have entirely swung the other way, which it did. So I don't know. Like, it's not that surprising to me, if I'm being entirely honest, because Indiana has had last year, which they were good, but also like look at all of these other teams that they beat are now considered top 10, top 25 teams. And I think it was just a fluke that they beat a lot of them.
Yeah. Well, I don't understand the down the. It's just a one game sample, but I don't understand why Michael Penix looked so freaking bad last on Saturday. He was terrible, threw three interceptions, and we had.
Yeah.
I just don't. I think that was a very confusing performance from Indiana, but
Yeah. Yeah. It very confusing and honestly was very upsetting for me because I needed Indiana to be really good this year.
it helps UC
At least
cases out. UC's
yeah, it
case.
helps you see.
Speaking of UC,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
looked.
So
I mean, I don't want to spend too much time because it was just a game against Miami of Ohio, but
it was a
um,
gashing.
they
Well, I
gashed
mean,
them.
Miami of Ohio, you have them picked to win the MAC
I do,
championship,
but that doesn't mean
and
anything.
like,
It's the MAC.
but they are looking to be one of the best teams in the MAC,
Yeah.
and I don't know, like, yeah, it is the MAC, but it's still a gashing of a team that they should gash.
That's a local a team you've been playing for 100 plus years. Like that's a rivalry game. It's still impressive if you just wipe the floor with them, even if they are a way lesser team. Um,
Yeah.
Oregon snuck one out against Fresno State. With their best defensive player, Kayvon Thibodeau, got hurt. That's kind of sad, but I don't really have much more to talk about that.
I mean, they snuck it out. I have a little bit to talk about that though. Like, I
Okay.
think the Pac-12. I mean, so at the Pac-12 in general, they went 6-6 this past week. The Pac-12 North went 1-5. With like Montana losing, or I mean, Washington losing to Montana, and they were ranked. You had Stanford lost to Nevada.
Kansas State.
Kansas State. Sorry, I keep thinking that. All right, yeah. So I got it pulled up right here. So I mean, you had Oregon State losing to Purdue,
Hell yeah.
Stanford losing to Kansas State, Cal losing to Nevada, Washington losing to Montana, Washington State losing to Utah State. Now I get like those, not a lot of those teams are cream puffs per se, but like it just doesn't. It's not a good look when you lose,
But
when you only
none of
have one win as
those
a conference to a Power Five foe. Like
none of those
UCLA is the
teams.
lone Power Five win this weekend.
Yeah, I agree with you, but the only one of those teams we were ever actually expecting to do anything, and that's Washington. And if Washington bounce
Yeah,
back
I mean that's
against
fair.
Michigan and looks good, I think it like we forget about that game
Sure,
pretty quickly. Um,
sure. Maybe, yeah, maybe that
I
happens. I don't know.
I think we should.
But I don't know. There's just something about it that just like it doesn't make me feel good about the Pac-12. Um,
Well, you've been down on the Pac-12 for a while.
uh, I have been down on the Pac-12, and I'm looking for a reason to like them again, but they haven't given me that.
You
Like like Oregon eked out a win against Fresno State. Um,
UCLA is the
I
reason
think UCLA is
to
looking like a
believe in the
top 10
Pac-12.
team.
Chip Kelly is back. I called
Yep,
this was my
you
pride and
did call
joy
this.
of the past weekend is that I called UCLA upsetting LSU. Um, Chip Kelly's back. UCLA's back. I'm calling it right now. This is it's gonna
Uh,
there. So right now, I still think USC is the best team in the conference. I believe UCLA might have passed Oregon now as the second best team in the conference, just based on this week
Interesting.
on the week one performances. Well, and UCLA played in week 0 too, so they have 2 games under their belt.
Yeah.
Two
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
impressive performances because the LSU game really wasn't ever close. Like it
No.
always felt
No.
comfortable that UCLA was going to win that game.
Yeah. Yeah. I would actually, I would actually put in my notes here, like UCLA is the team that I am most surprised about. My first inclination was to, okay, now, yeah, they've won 2 games. Let's put them in the top 10. Um, I think I'm gonna wait to like really pass judgment on this team till they actually play the Pac-12
Yeah.
because they always tend to beat each other
I
up.
don't want to put them in I don't want to
Um,
put them in the top 10 yet, but they deserve I think they definitely
yeah,
deserve to
like
be top 20 team.
they win one more game, I put them in the top 10. And I don't really care who they play. One more game, they're in the top 10 for
Okay.
me. Um, I don't know who I got to remove. Probably Indiana from my top 10 to yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, well, Indiana already fell out. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We didn't prepare for that, so we probably just moving on. All right. Alabama and Miami. I did want to touch on this game. I know it's Bama doing Bama things. It's kind of what everybody expected. I did make the case
I
Yeah.
wish Tuesdays were easier.
Band
for
practice
what is
Sunday.
happening?
Yeah, so I mean
Whatever
I
that
Hang
actually
on.
is
didn't
Nathan
get
is
to
working
I
on.
didn't get to
Nobody has
watch
time to
any
cook.
Freaking
But the
ESPN
big dinner box from Pizza Hut is the
playing
answer.
ads.
2 pizzas, wings, breadsticks.
yeah,
It's
mine
the
was
easy way
doing
to
that
feed the
too.
whole
You
family
couldn't
in
hear it, but
one
it was doing it
box.
to
My
mine
youngest
too.
wants to start.
You won't be able to hear it,
Um
but they'll be able to hear it on the recording. So, sorry everybody.
oh, right. So that's good. Well anyways, no, I didn't actually get to watch much of this game. Um I Yeah, I didn't get to watch very much of this game. I watched some highlights. Um,
Bryce Young is the leading
and
Heisman candidate now.
yeah,
He
absolutely.
looked
He looked
really
good,
good, and it
really good.
pisses me off.
Yeah, same. I also have to point out I have to take us to Big 12 land once we're done talking about Alabama.
Okay.
I think it says more about Alabama than it does about Miami. Miami did what I expected it to do, and I don't think I think Miami is probably a top 2, 3 team in the ACC still. Um, but it says more about Bama than it does about Miami.
I agree. It doesn't change any way Miami anything that I think about Miami. I still think they have a potential to win 10 games this year and still
Yep.
make the ACC championship game and compete for a really good bowl. But freaking Bama, man, I don't know. I do want
They're
to
really
touch
good.
a little bit before you get back to your Big 12 thing. I want to touch on the other big game of the week. I know we touched on it a little bit. Georgia Clemson.
Yeah, sure.
Georgia Clemson was a defensive struggle. My takeaway is that both these teams are superb on the defensive side of the ball. Like these might be the two best defensive teams in the country, but their offenses are anemic. I mean, good lord,
Yep.
Georgia Georgia would send blitzes on every play, and then the Clemson's offensive line literally had absolutely no chance. DJ Uiagalelei looked like a rookie quarterback who has never faced real pressure before, and he didn't look like he didn't seem comfortable in the pocket. So I think you're pretty worried if you're a Clemson fan. If you're a Georgia fan, that's the football you love to see. So you're happy with it.
I mean, they're good. See, Georgia's gonna steamroll through their schedule in the SEC, and then they'll play Bama, and they'll lose
Yeah, that's how it's gonna go.
by a lot
Yeah,
because Bama can actually play offense, and Georgia's like, oh, we're gonna bully people around and not let them score points. Well, that only works if you don't let them score points, and Bama's going to score points on you.
you have to
It's the only
score
team
at
in the SEC
least.
more than likely.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only Bama probably right now is looking to be the only team that I trust to actually win against Georgia. Maybe Texas A&M if their offense is
Texas. Yeah.
improved, but even then I'm not betting on them to win. Um, so I mean, yeah, and to your point, you're about to say you have to be able to score 40 points if you want to beat Bama,
I don't trust Georgia to just put up 30
and
points.
yeah, don't, I don't.
All right, I do. I don't.
But
Okay.
uh, in relation to that, maybe Georgia went in knowing that they were gonna be in a defensive slugfest with Clemson and decided not to give Bama any tape for what they can do offensively.
Maybe
Don't know,
it's a
because
big
I
brain
also
move.
think that's what I think that is actually what Iowa State did against Northern Iowa,
I did want to
because they
just
have to
hit
play
on that for a
Iowa
second.
next week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
first
So
time in the
I mean,
history of the Cy-Hawk matchup that they're both going to be ranked, and they're both ranked. Period. But now they're both going to be ranked in the top 10. So
yeah.
I do want to move just touch on a couple scores, and then let's get into the preview for this coming week because we are already over 15 minutes into this discussion. Like you said, Northern Iowa gave Iowa State a scare. USC, Florida, Texas A&M, they all won comfortably. Texas did pretty easily beat Louisiana. I was surprised by that. Texas is looking pretty good. And then moving into Sunday night's game, Florida State, Notre Dame. We talked about Mackenzie Milton a little bit. I'm still nervous about Notre Dame moving forward. I don't trust them as a top 10 team. And I'm slightly more optimistic about Florida State moving forward as long as they play Mackenzie Milton. But
Yeah, me too.
but that's all I
Yeah,
have.
yeah.
We can move into the week 2 preview now.
Okay. My first game that I want to touch on. We are about to see something that we haven't seen in a few years. Purdue is about to be 2-0.
Oh hell yeah, they are. And if they
They're
aren't,
about to play UConn.
if they do not go,
Well,
if they're not,
if they lose to
I
UConn,
quit.
they
I
need to
quit.
fire Jeff Brom.
I quit being a Purdue
He needs
football
to be
fan.
fired. Ooh,
because so we win that game, we're 2-0, and then I think the Notre Dame game is after that. And do not let me talk myself into thinking we have a chance against Notre Dame. Just I'm asking
I'm gonna talk you into it.
protect my
I'm gonna
own.
talk you into it, but I don't believe you. It's real.
I mean, yeah, it's not. It's completely impossible. But
No, yeah, that is.
Notre Dame struggles.
Um,
Does Notre Dame have a game this week? Who do they play?
yeah, I think they do.
I'm scrolling
I
through.
don't know,
Oh, they play.
actually.
Yeah, they play home to Toledo.
Okay, yeah, I knew that actually. Um, I think that Texas A&M versus Colorado is kind of an interesting matchup. It's
Okay.
a neat matchup, I guess. I don't think that Colorado has a shot, but uh, I think it's a good game. Um, Buffalo versus Nebraska. That could be a good game.
Yeah,
I mean, I think actually Buffalo wins that, if I'm being honest.
they have a serious
Based
chance.
off how well they did this past or in week 0 or
Yeah.
whatever. I think they win. Ooh, we have a bottom 25 matchup. We have Temple versus Akron.
Okay. Gotta love the bottom five matchups.
Uh,
The
I
toilet
I mean
bowls.
Temple wins that easy. Um, Bama plays Mercer.
Okay.
Solid.
That's a
Then we do.
78-3 game.
Yep. Obviously, we got Iowa State versus Iowa. That's going to
That's
be a great game. It's college game day. It's one of our few ranked unranked matchups. Texas plays Arkansas. That's going to be a good game.
I did that's gonna be
Uh,
a future SEC matchup.
yep. Yep. I also think App State at Miami is going to be a good game.
Is it Miami, Florida?
Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, Miami, Florida. So I think that could be a good game. Um, Eastern Kentucky plays at Louisville.
I mean, isn't Eastern Kentucky
Louisville
like
looked pretty bad.
yeah, they did. But they did have some pretty nice uniforms. I will give them that. Ooh.
They did, though.
Ooh.
Yeah. All
Ooh.
right. They played really bad, but they looked real
They
nice.
looked really nice. I just found an under the radar game of the week. 9:15
Okay.
Central Time, 10:15 on the East Coast. Number 21 Utah versus BYU in Provo, Utah. That is a big time matchup. I got BYU
Ooh.
minus 15 and a half.
Really?
No, not seriously.
Really?
I'm just trying to trigger
I'm
the
taking
Utah
BYU
fans.
on the money line there.
I'm just
I'll
trying
take
to
I'll take BYU on the money.
I'm just trying to trigger Utah fans. Um,
Okay.
they were
Michigan
Utah
Washington. That's an interesting matchup.
Utah was down 7-3 to Weber State at one point late in the first quarter. Just saying.
Yeah, my bet came through on that. Thank you.
Yeah, you had the minus 28 and a half. We'll get to the betting. We'll get to it.
Um, yeah.
Looking through it,
So
there's a lot
other
of
than that,
yeah,
I mean, obviously we have Oregon versus Ohio State.
yeah.
That's going to be a good game. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that good of a game anymore because of the defensive
Kayvon Thibodeau.
injuries for Oregon.
Yeah.
But then we have an 8 oh, we actually have an 8 p.m. game featuring a Big 10 team playing Washington. That's actually a pretty cool game. It's
It
too
would have
bad
been a
neither of
lot.
them are ranked
Yeah,
anymore.
it would have been a lot cooler if Washington would have just freaking taken care of business and beaten flipping Montana.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it is what
Yep.
it is.
So I mean, looking forward, I think there's some interesting matchups, but nothing that's like jumping out at me to say I absolutely have to watch this game. I don't know
Um,
enough about these teams honestly yet.
I think that's fair. I wouldn't. I think the Utah BYU game's fun just from a in-state rivalry perspective. But
Yes, I agree.
in terms of an on the field thing, I don't think it's going to be a super entertaining game or anything.
Yeah.
But I think Oregon and Ohio State's going to be a closer game than people imagine. I think Oregon kind of bounces back and rallies around and plays it close. I still think Ohio State rolls in the end, but I think it's a good, entertaining game. It'll be fun to watch. Um,
Sure.
and then of course the game of the week: Purdue, UConn. Jack Plummer, best quarterback in the country. David Bell, best wide receiver in the country. You heard it here.
Okay.